Welcome friends, I'm Dr. Manjunath. In my series of videos on asthma, we did discuss about NF5Bs in our previous video. Last video was mostly about the diagnosis of asthma. In this video, we'll concentrate more about the mimics of asthma, what's not asthma, and the treatment of children who have Vs in less than 5 years. Stay tuned for that. Before we get on with the topic, let's recapitulate what we discussed. Asthma is perhaps the most common childhood disease. It's a very heterogeneous disease. Bronchoconstriction is reversible, variable, and recurrent. Majority of children do settle down over 5 or 6 years of age. And most importantly, not all that who Vs are asthmatics. So in our flow of treatment of asthma, we do have few things like ascertaining of diagnosis, ruling out mimics, identifying the comorbids, triggers, and assessment and control of the future episodes. So today we're going to discuss more about the ruling out of mimics and treatment part. So the all other things which we have discussed, which is being listed, will be handled subsequently in the next episodes. Mimics. So mimics are the ones who look like asthma but need not be asthma. There are few conditions like laryngomalacias, foreign bodies, and among the infections we have TB, tuberculosis, or persistent bacterial bronchitis, immune deficiencies. And among the congenital anomalies, we have congenital heart disease or vascular anomalies, rare diseases like cystic fibrosis, primary ciliary dyskinesias, chronic lung diseases, hypersensitivity diseases, alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. These are some of the things which we have in our mimics list. So let's see how these mimics actually mimic asthma. The first and foremost would be a simple recurrent upper respiratory tract infections because of the viral infection. They present mostly with a cough or a runny nose, and most of them have a period of duration less than 10 days. And the child will be asymptomatic in between, so the child will not be troubled in between episodes. And then we have the gastroesophageal reflex. Whenever you see any child having cough while feeding, may also have recurrent chest infections and can vomit easily, especially after a large feed, and poor response to asthma medications. You would rather think of gastroesophageal reflux and not asthma. And foreign body aspirations, these ones present to us with sudden episode of abrupt cough, which may be severe, may also have stridor, and most of them would have started during eating or playing. They may also have recurrent respiratory infections, cough, and on examination we have focal lung lesions. For instance, when you have asthma, you would rather see polyphonic Vs on either side, but if you have a foreign body, you have one localized symptom. On why I'm showing on the right side of the patient is these foreign bodies are mostly seen on the right side. Of course, you can see it on the left side. You may have migrating foreign bodies on many other things, but what is most common is still on the right side. And then we have the persistent bacterial bronchitis. That's another condition where it starts as bronchiolitis, then it continues to have bacterial infections in the bronchi. So they may present to us with wet cough and poor response to asthma medications. Another condition which is very common in our day-to-day practice, we get to see a lot of them in our OPDs, and that is tracheomalacia, or rather laryngotracheomalacias. They present to us with noisy breathing when crying or eating, or during upper airway infections. Whenever you have an infection, the noise becomes even more worse. It's a very harsh cough, and you can also see the inspiratory and expiratory retractions in the chest. Symptoms are often present since birth, and these do not respond to asthma medications. And another common infection in our country has been tuberculosis. As we all know, it had shown a very decent decline But with the onset of COVID, the TB seems to be again on the rise. So they may present to us with persistent noisy respiration and cough, fever unresponsive to normal antibiotics, enlarged lymph nodes, poor response to bronchodilators or inhaled corticosteroids, and contact with someone who has tuberculosis. And we also have the congenital heart diseases. They may present to us with a cardiac murmur, cyanosis while eating. They may also have failure to thrive, tachycardia, tachypnea, and or hepatomegaly, and these do not respond to asthma medications. Cystic fibrosis is another important condition. A lot of them go unnoticed. These present to us with cough shortly after birth, recurrent respiratory infections, failure to thrive because of the malabsorption, and loose, greasy bulk stools. And primary ciliary dyskinesis, they also present to us with cough, recurrent chest infections, neonatal respiratory distress, chronic ear infections, and persistent nasal discharge right from birth. And these do not respond to asthma medication. These ones, some of them also come with a situs inversus. What that means is whatever is seen on the right side is shifted to the left side of the patient. And vascular rings, they're again quite common. They present to us with persistent noisy breathing, and they do not respond to asthma medications. And bronchopulmonary dysplasias, we all know that they are present since birth. They mostly seen in prematures, very low birth weight, who needed prolonged ventilation or supplemental oxygen for a very, very long time. And these present to us with difficulty of breathing since birth. And then we have the immune deficiency disorders. They present to us with plethora of symptoms. It's hard to miss those immune deficiency disorders. So let's see what is less likely to be asthma. Though they present to us with asthma-like conditions, but once you see them in the clinical aspect in your clinics, you know that these ones are not asthma. The symptoms, basically the symptoms what I'm talking about. Whenever you have any symptom which has started in less than 6-month-old children, whenever you have a localizing sign, like I said, in a foreign body or a congenital anomaly, and you have a unilateral symptom, that's again a foreign body or a anomaly, fixed symptom like in a vascular ring, wet cough like a bronchiectasis in cystic fibrosis, or the bacterial bronchitis, fever and failure to thrive, lack of weight gain. Whenever any child presents to us with those symptoms, you think of a larger symptom. It's the respiratory symptom is part of the major disease what has been already existing. Whenever you see the clubbing, that means the nail bed is raised from its surface, that again is not suggestive of asthma. And when a child comes to us with persistent hypoxia, that again says that it is not asthma. And then whenever you have multi-system involvement, asthma would be a part of that system involvement and not a disease per se. And when you see that a child is not responding to bronchodilators, you would rather think of other conditions apart from asthma, and you keep asthma as a less likelihood in your diagnosis part. So this is the asthma chakra which is used for treatment of asthma. This one I have taken from the guidelines. See, everybody has their personal experiences. There is American Thoracic Society, European Respiratory Society, Australian Society. There are many of the respiratory societies existing in the world. They all do their individual researches. They all have their own guidelines. But compiling all of them, there is one thing, and that is GINA, Global Initiative for Asthma. This is the one which comes out with new guidelines every year, so that there is a comprehensive understanding and comprehensive treatment part which is recommended to the entire world. Of course, these ones can be tweaked for our own country, but for large part, this is what we have to follow in our OPDs. So it comes out with 3 things, and that is assess, adjust and review of treatment. whenever we are treating a child with asthma. So what to assess? We have to exclude the alternative diagnosis which we did, and then symptom control and modifiable risk factors, comorbidities, inhaler techniques, and what are the preferences of the parents and their goals. That also has to be taken into account. And then we need to adjust or treat the modifiable risk factors, comorbidities, and non-pharmacological methods can also be used, and parental education is very important. And then we have the review system where the symptoms, exacerbations, side effects, and parents' satisfaction, all that is again reviewed. So this cycle continues whenever any patient comes to us. We have to assess, adjust, and then review. This process continues whenever any patient who comes to us in our OPDs. So this is a simple slide which tells about everything of treatment of asthma in children less than 5 years. This is directly taken up from the GINA guidelines. We will try and debrief what is written in this chart. In step 1, when to consider this one? Whenever any child has infrequent viral Vs or very few interval symptoms. So what to do? On need short-acting bronchodilators or the beta-2 agonist. That's all. Nothing more is needed for this child who comes out with occasional symptoms during the event of viral infection. These do not need anything apart from simple bronchodilators. Step 2. When to consider? When symptoms are not consistent with asthma but has 3 times or more exacerbations and requiring frequent bronchodilators. In another condition, when the symptom patterns are consistent with asthma and who are not well controlled. In that condition, again, we need to consider this treatment. What to give? The preferred controller of choice is daily low-dose inhaled corticosteroids. That's it. That's the best thing what can be recommended whenever any child who has recurrent symptoms within a year of more than 3 times within a year, or symptoms consistent or may not be consistent of asthma. This is the preferred line of management. And then what is less preferred is daily low-dose leukotriene receptor antagonists, inhaled corticosteroids on need basis. These are less preferred. And reliever, that is whenever any child has any symptom, we treat that condition on need basis, and that is again a beta-2 agonist. Though this thing has been said in our guidelines on many occasions, we prescribe inhaled corticosteroids to many of the parents, but somehow the parents are very inconsistent in their approach. No matter how much time you take, how much time you spend on counseling the importance and the need for inhaled corticosteroids, many of the parents are still reluctant. They do not want to give their children daily low-dose inhaled corticosteroids. With this video, I want to appeal every mother, I want to appeal every parent, I want to appeal every doctor who is watching this to emphasize the need for daily low-dose inhaled corticosteroids. Of course, there are lesser alternatives like leukotriene receptor antagonists or ICS on need basis. These are lesser alternatives. There is nothing to replace the inhaled corticosteroids. Of course, these are not the disease modifying drugs. They at least keep the disease under check. And then we have the step 3 treatment, and that is when to consider whenever any child is diagnosed with asthma and which is not well controlled on low dose inhaled corticosteroid. At that time, the preferred choice is of course doubling the daily low dose of inhaled corticosteroids. Of course, I'll be putting a chart of what's the low dose, medium dose and high dose. That I'll put a separate chart so that anybody can pause the video and take a screenshot and follow it up. And the less preferred method is the daily low dose inhaled corticosteroids, leukotriene receptor antagonist, and a specialist referral. Somebody like me who has done the asthma and allergy course will be able to guide these children in a better way than a general pediatrician or a physician who is handling the child. So this is what is to be done in step 3. That means you have already diagnosed any child with asthma, but it is not coming under control with low dose inhaled corticosteroids. This is what we are supposed to do at that stage. And then we have the severe case. When to consider this? When the diagnosis is confirmed that it is asthma which is not well controlled even with double low dose inhaled corticosteroid. What is to be done at that time? So again, we need to give double the dosage of the daily low dose inhaled corticosteroid and consider a specialist opinion. What is to be done at this stage? So there are many measures which can be taken up in a child who has had a very poor response to inhaled corticosteroids. There are many conditions. First thing is, it could be neutrophilic asthma. There are many phenotypes. Among the phenotypes, what we see is a neutrophilic asthma which is less responsive to regular inhaled corticosteroids. And second thing is, we need to know what is the child allergen to. At that time, we would rather consider getting a skin prick test done just to make sure the child is, what sensitivity the child is carrying out with, what are we dealing with, so that ascertaining the diagnosis can be done in a better way. And then we have the phenotypic evaluation of those children who already have asthma. So that has to be done. And then depending upon that, if it is the aeroallergen like the house dust mite or a pollen, allergen avoidance measures can be rigorously encouraged in those parents. And then the less preferred alternative would be to increase the LTRA use and increase the dosage of inhaled corticosteroids or intermittent inhaled corticosteroids. These are some of the measures which can be done, which are less preferred ones than the main one. And the reliever as on need basis. So whenever in any of these steps, whenever any child has a episode of bronchoconstriction or a sudden precipitation of asthma, we need to treat them with bronchodilators. So treatment of acute asthma is something which is to be detailed, which has to be discussed in a very detailed basis. We'll keep that as a separate video. For now, what we must emphasize is asthma is a heterogeneous disease, has a lot of reasons why it happens to kids. In any child who presents to us at a very early age, it may not be asthma. There has to be a definitive timeline where it starts, where it ends. In majority of children, it starts after 6 months or in the second year, but by 3 or 5 years, majority of them do settle down. So that's the most important keynote what we are going to finish this video at.